This is EWA Radio, the official podcast of the Education Writers Association, and I'm public editor Emily Richmond. It's loud, it's exciting, and it can be overwhelming for first-timers. Yes, I'm talking about Las Vegas, but I'm also talking about EWA's National Seminar, our annual flagship conference, which will be held in Sin City this year. This seemed like the perfect time to do two things: help attendees prepare for what's going to be an intense and learning-filled 3 days at EWA 24, but also talk about how to make the most of our future gatherings as well. I can think of no one more qualified to help us with all of that than Daarel Burnette. He's a longtime friend of this podcast and an even longer-time friend of EWA, an editor with the Chronicle of Higher Education and previously a reporter and editor for Education Week. He's also a member of EWA's board of directors. Daarel, welcome back to EWA Radio.
Glad to be here.
How many years have you been going to National Seminar? Can you count them up?
It's probably like 20 years now.
Oh my gosh, is it really?
Yeah.
That's incredible. I did not expect you to say 2 decades.
Yeah, it's been a while. I've been an old man.
I know. I've been thinking my very first national seminar was in 2007. And it was at a hotel in D.C. And Daarel, this was back in the day. I don't remember this. We used to have roommates. Do you remember?
Yeah, throwback. Yes.
I mean, it's hard to explain to the youngins today, but they actually used to have us room with total strangers.
That's very real. That's very, very real.
I'd like to send my best wishes to my roommate. I have no idea who she was, except that she had very big shoes that she left by the front door, which I appreciated. I had no idea who she actually was. I wish her the best. If she remembers and can reach out to me, I apologize for the big shoes comment, but that's really it. But, the seminar was so small that the banquet was in one of the little dining rooms of the hotel. And after dinner, we played EWA Jeopardy.
Yeah.
That was the entertainment. And now, look at us now, Daarel.
Years and years later.
Look at us now. Can you remember your first EWA National Seminar?
Oh, geez. It was my first year of journalism, which was 2006. So it was a year before you. So I guess maybe not 20 years, like 18, 17 years. My math is really bad. I just remember the feeling of not being alone because I was one of 2 education reporters at the Courier-Journal. I was a suburban reporter, and then we had an urban reporter, and we had a higher ed reporter. So it was 3 of us. But we all had different editors, and we rarely worked together. So all of a sudden, I'm in a room with dozens and dozens of education reporters. And it was just I felt seen, I felt heard. I got a ton of story ideas. I built community. A lot of the people I still talk to today. So it was a very overwhelming experience.
I agree with you. I definitely think it can be overwhelming, and there's solidarity in numbers. And, it's one thing to see somebody's name on a listserv or look at the staff boxes on papers that you're following online or the podcasts you're listening to or the news that you're following. And it's another to actually be in the same physical space. And I think that's one of the things that's so gratifying about National Seminar is we all get to actually get the unqualified face time.
Amen. Yes.
So how do you prepare before you come to National Seminar? I want to talk about this from like a logistical, practical standpoint, but let's talk first about the agenda. It's big. It's always big. We do our best to keep the number of concurrent sessions in each hour reasonable so people can make some choices, have some selection, but also not feel overwhelmed the way you might at some of the bigger education conferences where there are sometimes dozens of concurrents in the same hour. Where do you start when you get that agenda in front of you?
I would map my beat or the issues that are happening in my community to the seminar. So you'll be surprised. I mean, it's very acute this year, but there are very similar things that are happening in every school district, if you're a higher ed reporter, every college. There are some things that are very similar, and there are some things that are not similar. So I'll give an example. One of the best conferences I went to was when I was a reporter at the AJC. And at that time, there was a bunch of cheating scandals. And there were a couple other districts, Columbus, I think El Paso, New Mexico. And those reporters were also at the conference, and they talked about how to write about cheating. And it'll probably be similar this year. So if you have a thing that you are covering persistently, budget cuts, special education crises, free speech issues, etc., I would prioritize those things in the agenda, because getting in front of those reporters who have the same sorts of headaches and have figured out unusual ways to approach those subjects sharing sources, sharing story ideas, encouraging each other, etc. That's how you're probably going to get the most out of the conference.
That's a great point. We have a lot of reporters who are speakers this year, as well as serving as our volunteer moderators. And of course, we have our caucus hours, which you'll find scattered throughout the program, which is an opportunity to get together and talk to reporters about some specific issues that matter to you. For example, suburban schools. We also have a caucus for EWA reporters who are also working parents. All of those things are an opportunity to find your peers.
Amen. No, peers is the biggest thing. I mean, I think there is something to, like I said before, not being alone. I think there is something to sharing story ideas. Oftentimes we see the final product and we don't see what went into the final product. And that's really the magic of this gathering is meeting people who can talk through how they were able to do this thing.
Did you look through the list of speakers as well? Did you try to arrange any one-on-ones with folks? We do put contact information, of course, in the program for reaching folks.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, everything from like sources to there are a lot of public relations folks there. I'll put it this way. We go to sources when we are looking for a very specific story. And I think EWA Seminar is an opportunity for these folks to talk about things that they're working on or things that they're observing. So it's almost like the flip opposite, where they can help you start to reframe your understanding of the issues going on in your community.
That's a nice way to think about it, flipping the table a little bit and giving them a chance to be more expansive and to build those connections. I like that approach. What tips do you have for somebody who may be coming to their very first national seminar?
The biggest one is consider reading other news organizations' stories. I would read the award winners because I think you guys typically, I think we're doing it this year too. How I did this story where people who did big projects will talk about their stories. It's always great to go to those sessions having read the story because you'll get a deeper understanding of the reporting strategies they used, how long it took, what role their editor played, what role they played, etc. So I would definitely prioritize trying to read the award winners and or people who are on panels talking about specific things. If there's a reporter or if there's a news organization that you admire their education coverage, I would try to set up some time that you can meet with them. It is good networking opportunity, but also like it's just always great to strike up a conversation and say, I like how you did that story. Help me understand that. And then I also just think, this is not something that you can necessarily prepare for, but I'm saying this as an introvert, be ready to be social because I do think that this is a kind of social gathering that is very beneficial professionally because it's always good to know that there's somebody else who is having the same sorts of headaches, navigating newsrooms, navigating school districts, navigating colleges as you are.
Terrific advice. My advice would be, I have two pieces of advice. The first piece of advice is, wear your badge, read the badge. Wear your name badge, pay attention to other people's name badges. We have ribbons that attach to them that are often icebreakers. So you'll see who's been designated as an awards finalist. You'll see our board members. You'll see EWA reporting fellows. That's a great way to strike up a conversation. Sit next to strangers in the sessions, at the meals, introduce yourself. Chances are the person sitting next to you is just as overwhelmed and nervous as you are and just as happy to talk to someone. I find reporters are really great at approaching strangers when we want something like a quote, but sometimes getting to the gathering of national seminar can feel a little bit overwhelming if you're a first timer. Trust me, everybody is very, very happy that you're there. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with joining a table of people who seem to know each other and asking if you can have that last seat. They'll be very glad to welcome you. So don't be afraid to do that. My next piece of advice would be to pace yourself. It's a long conference. I know it's Vegas, and I'm going to be a little bit of a boss here, but get your sleep, folks. Get a decent night's sleep. Get up, be hydrated, eat well, rest well. If you're coming before the conference or staying late, that's a great time to go out and explore the city. But pace yourself. The days are long, and the rooms can be over air conditioned, and we can't do anything about it. So, bring an extra jacket or a little wrap, comfortable shoes, the most comfortable shoes you own. Your feet will thank you. And I promise the style police will not mind.
Unless the shoes are too big.
Unless the shoes are too big. Yes, if you wear your clown shoes, I'm afraid that Daarel and I will have to evict you from National Seminar, and there will be no refunds. Very sorry. No clown shoes. The only clown shoes should be over at Circus Circus. So,
Okay. Wow. Good times.
what advice do you have, Daarel, for somebody who's more, up in our bracket in terms of having been to many national seminars? How do you keep it fresh?
Oh man, I was just talking to Eric Hoover about this. He's been going for years and he's pointed out like every year he goes, he learns something new. I just think that the education world is so vast. I'm now in the higher ed world and I thought K-12 was, it was it. But it's just so fast. Millions and millions of employees, millions and millions of students. And because this is a gathering of education reporters from across the country, every reporter is going to have a different perspective of what's happening in their community. So there's always something to learn. There's always another story to write about. It's what's great about our profession.
Is there any vivid memory that sort of stands out for you for National Seminar? When you think about National Seminar, it just pops right in your head?
Oh, yeah. I mentioned this the other day. Do you remember the reporter that wrote the Rubber Room story?
Oh,
The
yes.
New Yorker?
Yes,
And he tore us to shreds.
he did.
He had a lot of very strong feelings about how reporters are not being hard enough on teachers. And I pointed this out because in the higher ed world, teaching is sort of like this afterthought. And I remember that moment because as a starting point of reporters starting to be hypercritical of teachers and how they go about doing their jobs. I mean, he kind of had like a call to action, saying so many of these people are lazy and they're not doing anything in the classroom, etc. It was very fiery speech, controversial, some of which I did not agree with, and I sometimes think reporters went overboard. But it was a very EWA moment.
I was thinking also of a call to action, and that was when Nicole Hannah-Jones came in 2015 and won the Hechinger Graham Prize for her reporting. And there was a call to action there too, where she said to the audience, she said, if you're not covering school segregation right now, you're missing the story. That is the story for everyone. And I feel like that was really prescient. She was ahead of the curve on that, and I felt like that is a call to action. I'd still like to remember, of course, Vanderbilt and in 2014, when EWA managed to trend on that lovely platform we used to know as Twitter because of the glitter cake pops that were the centerpiece. And it was as if reporters had never seen dessert before and lost their collective minds at these glitter cake pops in the centerpiece. Thank you, Vanderbilt University, for the National Seminar Banquet that will live in infamy, the glitter cake pops.
Oh man, I was
Yeah.
thinking about that the other day because, well, the protests there are really contentious, and I was like, I've been to Vanderbilt. Why was
Yes.
I at Vanderbilt?
Yeah.
EWA.
Yeah, glitter cake pops. So
Glitter
that's
cake pops.
yeah. So if any of our listeners out there remember the glitter cake pops, please drop me a line at radio@ewa.org, and we'll have some kind of bonus for you at National Seminar this year if you drop me a note. If you remember the glitter cake pops, send me an email. We'll have a little special something waiting for you at National Seminar. That's all I'm going to say.
Hey, man.
What are you packing? What's on your packing list?
Pens and notepads.
Yeah.
Also clothes and
Yeah.
normal size shoes, but pens and notepads. I am not a fan of. Everybody takes notes differently, but I tend to focus more when it's just a pen and piece of paper and write down story ideas. Don't write down everything that they say, but write down story ideas, and that'll help you have a go-to when you go back to the newsroom and your editor says, "What did you learn?" And you could say, "Oh, I have 5 stories I want to pitch to you."
That's a really smart way to sum it up. Absolutely. Pens, notebooks, great idea. Also, folks, please try if you can, if you've got them, bring some portable chargers for your phones. We appreciate that you're going to be hugging the walls like barnacles, looking for the one outlet during the session, and all the seats are going to be empty because you're all going to be glued to the back walls trying to charge everything up. You've got portable chargers, please pack them. Extra pens, notebooks, reusable water bottles, sometimes a good idea. You might want to keep that in your backpack. So all of those things should be on your packing list. Do you have a travel playlist? Do you do that when you make trips?
Uh, I'm a Pivot fan, so Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway. So I'm a couple episodes behind, but that's my go-to listening and fresh air. So I'm a little bit of a nerd.
That's okay. We like nerds. So we're putting together our own travel playlist for EWA. We're going to put it up on Spotify and we'll share it with our attendees if folks want to get zoomed up for the music for National Seminar. So some of this is Vegas specific, but a lot of it is really, I think, how to make the most of EWA conferences in general. For those of you who cannot be with us this year, we will have some blog posts up on our website with highlights from the conference, from some of those key sessions. And we hope to see you, if not next year at National Seminar, maybe you're on the higher ed beat and want to join us in the fall for our annual higher education seminar. We're going to be announcing the location of that very soon. And you can find all of that on our website, ewa.org. Daarel, any messages for future you going to a future national seminar conference when we listen to this down the road?
Get excited. I don't know. Future me, I just hope that I keep going. I mean, you know the story, but the reason I'm an education reporter is because my professor met his wife at an EWA conference in the mid-90s. So he was a big fan, and he told me to join. They had these student memberships, and he was like, oh, this is the greatest organization ever. They are now divorced, but you just meet lifelong friends. So I guess to my future me, I would just say, go get excited, learn, get story ideas, etc. So
I just hope future me's around to listen to it and I haven't been replaced by AI. That's yeah. Yeah, that's my hope. I hope. No, it's going to be great. To future me, I would say, I've never lost my enthusiasm for being in a room full of reporters, and I hope I never do. I can't imagine that day would ever come. Daarel Burnette, EWA board member, editor at Chronicle of Higher Education. Thank you for always making time for EWA Radio.
Oh, anytime. Thanks for thinking of me.
And that wraps up another episode for us. If there's a story or reporter you want to learn more about, drop us a line with radio@ewa.org. The mission of the Education Writers Association is to strengthen the community of education journalists and improve the quality of education coverage. For more than 75 years, EWA has helped reporters get the story right. Have a great week, take good care of yourselves, and thank you for listening.